up, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Trust Your Board podcast. My name's Stephen Wright, joined by Mr. William Monroe. How you doing, Will?
Steve, doing well. A little disappointed by the result there of the U.S. game. I don't know if you're watching any of the World Cup, but they had a late draw where they gave up a goal toward the end of the game and weren't able to take the lead again, but took a point, so decent start.
Yeah, I did not see any of that. I also didn't see any football this week, so I'm just behind on everything. Yeah, I didn't see the F1 race yesterday. Yeah, there's a lot of catching up I need to do here.
Is Canada excited for the World Cup? I know they're in it for the first time in a while.
I assume so, but I don't really know anyone that cares.
Gotcha.
But I'm sure there are plenty of groupings out there that do. Just not my company.
Roger.
That's a filter of mine.
That.
If you show interest, I just filter you out and stop talking to you.
Well, that's fair.
Which you have now expressed interest, so I apologize.
I am being filtered out.
Indeed. But hey, yeah, on to the other football, the American football. We got Thanksgiving games this week, so get your lineups ready for Thursday. And we got waivers today because there were injuries aplenty this week. A lot of big names. We got our list here. Will, you want to read them off real quick here?
Yeah, we had quite a few injuries. Kyle Pitts was the later one, I think, that really came out today. I didn't even see that he got hurt in the game, but he actually was put on IR, so we'll miss 4 weeks.
Oh no! What will I do without those Pitts 2 points?
Yeah. Those Pitts managers are really going to be going crazy now, right? If they weren't going nuts beforehand, now you don't have any reason to play.
Yep,
luckily,
100%.
We also have Justin Fields injured his left shoulder. Still TBD. I think they said really day to day, so nothing rolled out going forward. But definitely something to monitor if you were riding the Justin Fields train there. Joe Mixon went down, and we saw his backups. Marjorie P. Ryan had a great game, so thanks for Eddie Mixon managers there because he was the one that could have been the person getting all those points should he not have gotten hurt. Chase Edmonds is out for a couple of weeks now with an injury. And interestingly enough, one of his backfield mates, Melvin Gordon, is no longer on the team. Did you see that?
I did, yeah.
What did you think of that? That's kind of crazy.
Yeah,
right?
that's wouldn't have expected that, but too many fumbles, I guess.
Yeah, I guess so. But yeah, I mean, he was like the most tenured guy on the team, so it really is interesting to see that that happen.
Yeah, I mean, Latavius Murray's done good, so
backfield.
I guess he'll be the guy, I suppose.
Yeah, it works out for us as well in our dynasty.
Yeah, I'd say
he seems to be the guy going forward, and potentially missing Mixon for a week here. Definitely good to have some depth there. Clyde Edwards-Helaire got hurt, as well as Kadarius Toney, both in Sunday Night Football for the Chiefs, as well as Mike Williams on the Chargers side. So a couple of weapons there on 2 high-powered offenses going down.
Yeah, big time. It was not a great week for injuries.
No, injuries definitely aplenty, that's for sure. To go with that, Matt Stafford put in concussion protocol. Wan'Dale Robinson done for the year with an ACL injury, and then Jaylen Warren got hurt as well. We saw Najee Harris come back into the fold a little bit. So definitely a mixed bag of injuries, but it does give us some interesting waiver options here.
Yeah, it absolutely does. So let's go ahead and jump right into the running backs. I guess we'll package these two right up front here, Will, because they're just so highly rostered. Pacheco, Rachaad White, 64%, 61% rostered. They must be rostered if you're not they're out there, right?
Yeah, that's kind of the probably not available, but double check because 60% of leagues means there's 30 to 40% that are available. So keep an eye out; those guys are available, and they are running wild here. Pacheco looked really good there on Sunday Night Football, and I think there's still some TBD on Leonard Fournette, but White's clearly getting a lot of work despite Fournette being healthy. So if Fournette were to miss, it's clearly going to be, White's backfield.
Yeah, definitely. Latavius Murray, we just talked about with Melvin going down, only rostered in 24% of leagues, but it looks like it's his, not that it's the greatest offense in the world, but it's a starting running back, and, you got to have
Mm-hmm.
that depth for the playoff run, right?
Yeah, I mean, 17 carries wasn't the most efficient, only 49 yards, but 4 catches for 23 yards and got in the end zone. So ended up being a solid day there for Latavius Murray. And we got Carolina this week, so another matchup where he's going to be usable. And I think he's probably going to be, the claim that I would prioritize. Maybe the next guy here, so much Pirine, depending on if Mixon's out and depending on if you are the Mixon, manager, might be something that you need to look into. But other than that, I think Murray's probably the guy here of the one people that are under that 60% threshold.
Yeah, agreed. Stepping into a pretty clear role, I would think. Yeah, you mentioned P. Ryan rostered in 9% of leagues. We'll see if Mixon misses a game. If he does, P. Ryan's an easy start. If he doesn't, then he's an easy sit, right?
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I think we're all enjoying what he's doing. We do have Ingram in here because he is the
Yeah,
last guy, I think, after James Conner over in Arizona.
yeah, the by default number 2 running back here for Monday Night Football. So we may, you may know more listening to this than we know right now, since he's technically, hasn't played yet, but looks to be the number 2 guy. So it'll be interesting to see what happens tonight, how many carries he gets. That they not want to overload James Conner with too many carries. So I think definitely someone to keep an eye on, and maybe going to be a decent claim tomorrow if we see him being utilized.
Yeah, or if Connor gets hurt. Wouldn't it be the first time he's got
Mm-hmm.
hurt, right? James Cook, suddenly pretty relevant in that game. And it wasn't like it was, garbage time or anything. Like he just got regular usage. Only rostered in 17% of leagues. So he's out there. I don't know if this is a 1 week wonder or, maybe they're working him in there now that we're halfway through the season and, they could see, he's more up to speed with the NFL or whatever. But, he's doing pretty good and didn't really do it the damage in the passing game either. It was regular old running back work.
Yeah, it's it's interesting to see. You like to see those young backs get carries, and I think Singletary was clearly the guy for a while there, but they probably want to use a few guys in that mold. So I think he's an interesting ad. This is the time when you want to add those younger players. Want to get those guys that are going to be able to make an impact down the stretch here, that have that kind of room to grow.
Yeah. Speaking of guys, we're gonna skip one here on our list here. Well, speaking of guys with room to grow, Akers. He got the lion's share of the work this week. 27% rostered. Who knows what that means for next week? But I guess you'd be better off placing your bet on Akers than Henderson, right? As far as
Yeah, I
upside
think
goes.
so. I think so, and I think this just really proves more that I don't think I want anything to do with the backfield. Um, it's just you don't know who it's going to be week to week. None of them really stand out as a player that I really, really want. So I think I'm just going to probably try to steer clear if possible. But if you did need somebody, and let's say you miss out on a lot of these other guys, Akers, I guess, is worth a shot.
Yeah, and then throwing out, Geo coming back off IR. I don't think he's played at all this year, right?
Not as
The
far as I remember. I
preseason thing, I
know
think.
they brought him back, but I think he he was out pretty early on, and we didn't see too much of him throughout the season until looks like maybe right now, especially if we see Fournette injured.
Yeah, probably a wait and see more so than an ad. And given his age, I'm
Mm-hmm.
not expecting him to do anything, but worth noting for sure. Moving on to the wide receivers here, Josh Palmer continues to be relevant. Might be kind of hard to get rostered up at 59% of leagues. But again, the Mike Williams injury that you said, re-injury, he's just always hurt. Him and Keenan, not the best year, but Josh Palmer, great plug and play, right?
Yeah, man, he has
We would
been
know.
he's been really good. Exactly, great week this last week. 26 points, and obviously his best of the year. But he's been double digits 4 other times on the year. So out of the 10 games he's played in, Double digits in half of them. A couple of duds a little earlier in the year, but it's really been pretty consistent. Since then. So definitely somebody that I think you have to roster, especially with the potential injury for Mike Williams. We'll see how long he's out, but if he's out for an extended period of time, and Palmer's the number two there with Keenan, probably wanting to ease back in, you may see him, be the leader when it comes to targets and big plays.
Yeah, 100%, 100%. He is he's a good one to add. But again, tough to roster up at 59%. I'm going to jump to another one that's tough to roster. Darius Slayton. He's got a nice little run going.
Yeah.
50-50 shot, though. He's rostered in 51% of leagues, so he might be tough to get your hands on. But, he's been good. And like you said, one down.
Last man standing, really.
Yeah, indeed. And we've seen it before from him. He's, a few years ago, he was good. So another solid ad, right? You would be looking to pick him up if available.
Yeah, I mean, it's an offense and the team that's winning. Obviously, he lost this week, but still right in the playoff mix. And he's probably one of the last few guys available to play receiver, unfortunately, for the Giants. He's, been almost double digits each of the last 4 games. He had, half point scoring 9.1 in week 8, but 13.3 in week 7, had the bye week in 9, 17 points last week, and then this week 11.1. So, I mean, he's scoring. He's giving you what you're hoping for, and I think it's maybe your last shot to pick him up because it looks like he's going to be the go-to guy down the stretch here.
Yeah, agreed, 100%.
One other thing I guess to be think maybe interesting. Do you think there's any chance reunion for Odell Beckham there in New York?
No, I don't. It was between them and Dallas. They're saying right now, right?
That's the last I heard. Yeah, I think it sounds like he wants to go more to a contender. But maybe if you're Odell, do you wish he would go somewhere to get snaps and then maybe get a better contract next year? I guess it really depends on what he's looking for, what he wants out of a team.
Yeah, I mean, I look at those two teams and it's tactically they're both contenders. They got the same record, but I think everyone agrees that the Cowboys are like a legit good team, and Giants, they're falling apart a bit. I imagine they missed the playoffs, but we'll see.
Mm.
So yeah, I would be looking Dallas's way if I was him. But yeah, like you said, who knows? He could look at the Giants and be like, well, there's a ton of opportunity there. I'm going to get a ton of targets, and that'll show me off for the off season because there's no competition.
Yeah, and you still have a shot at least at the playoffs themselves. I mean, they're playing well, so you don't know. At this point, there's a chance that you could have all 3 NFC East teams in the playoffs with Washington playing better as well and over 500.
Yeah, 100%. So yeah, we'll see. Pretty interesting. Demarcus Robinson had himself a game. Speaking of kind of last man standing, Bateman down, Andrews getting game scripted out, double covered as much as possible. Duvernay just wasn't it, and it went off with Robinson. I don't know if you can trust him, but he's out there if you want to take that shot, right?
9 targets, 9 catches, caught all of them for 128 yards. So getting 17.3 in half PPR without a touchdown is definitely what you want to see. But yeah, is the consistency going to be there? I mean, 4 targets in week 9, 8 targets again in week 8, but pretty minimal before that. So it's definitely a little scary when you're looking at that and trying to bank on him.
Yeah, 100%. I agree. That's a tough one. If we're looking at young upstarts, Treylon Burks had himself a good week, 20% rostered. So, maybe a second half of the year bump for him and the Titans as a whole. Could be interesting.
Yeah, I think he's definitely one of the top targets here for me, given that Palmer's probably not going to be available. Slayton maybe 50-50. Out of the rest of the bunch here, I think, Burks and maybe the next guy we're talking to, it's with Donovan Peoples-Jones. I think those are probably the 2 guys that I'd be the most interested in.
Yeah, Donovan Peoples-Jones rostered in 45% of leagues, so a little tougher to get your hands on, but still over 50% of leagues, he's out there. We'll get Deshaun Watson at some point here. Whether that helps him or actually hurts him, who knows?
We will see. We'll see what he's got, left. Obviously, it's been almost 2 years since he's played.
Peoples-Jones been real solid. Landry had himself a good game from a fantasy standpoint. Really, it's just because he caught a touchdown. I think he was like 4 for 30 yards or something like that. Pretty irrelevant, but he caught a touchdown and that was solid. So, maybe he continues to get better week over week because he was out for quite a while and he was only been back for a couple weeks now, I think. So worth keeping an eye on for him, I think. What do you think?
Yeah, I think it's definitely worth keeping an eye on. I mean, I know you and I were debating this week, what he could do, and I think another one of those last man standings. There's been a lot of injuries there as well. You still got Olave, but I mean, if Landry might not be a bad depth piece to have a receiver that you can kind of just throw and plug and play if you get some injuries ahead of him.
Yeah, I agree. Last two here, we'll touch on both at the same time. Matt Collins had himself a pretty good game. Rostered in 16% of leagues. Paris Campbell, again, not a huge game like he's had in the past, was still solid for fantasy, 40% rostered. I'm assuming you like Campbell more than Collins. Is that fair?
Yeah, I mean, I think both are decent volume plays too. I mean, we're seeing it pretty consistently out of Matt Collins with some injuries around him. And Paris Campbell clearly is going to be involved in the game plan. It's Campbell, Pittman, and kind of everyone else from a receiver and tight end standpoint. So I think both are decent options. Maybe don't have the pure upside that you can get with maybe a Berkshire, Peoples Jones going off, but Hollins and Campbell have decent ceilings and pretty solid floors as well.
Yeah, I agree. Solid options there. Tight ends, the messy landscape. I guess the one we could toss out quickly and just breeze over. Trey McBride, he played tonight as we're recording this, so keep an eye on that. You can make a judgment call based on what we see. He's rostered in 16% of leagues currently. Nothing more to really add on that front, right?
No, I think it's wait and see with him, but it's could be a high powered offense. I don't think Kyler's going to play, so that might really limit what you can learn from him tonight. But worth looking at, especially in the just kind of wasteland that is the tight end landscape for the most part.
Yeah, so one guy that's not been a wasteland, Juwan Johnson, 4 out of the last 5 weeks been double digits for fantasy.
Yeah,
A lot of that just powered by touchdowns. Like he'll end up with 40 yards, but he gets a touchdown. That's a good week for
yeah,
the tight end position. So he's the one you're most interested in, right?
yeah. I think you just kind of ride that train, right? If you're in a situation where you don't have great tight end play, you just keep riding. It's been, like I said, scoring 4 out of 5 weeks, 4 out of 5 weeks being good. So got the Niners and Tampa before the bye. Bye week it does come up in week 14, which is tough. But it's there's really not a ton out there. Cooper, you mentioned as well. I think Evan Ingram is this guy maybe the most interested in. 36% rostered coming off the bye week, so you might be able to be getting him a little bit lower, but he's clearly been used in the game plan and has been decent at times when he's not scoring touchdowns. Now, the last 2 weeks going into the bye, not great. 2 targets for 1 catch, 3 catches on 4 targets, but not many yards. But I think it opens up a little bit. You got some decent tight end matchups, coming out of the bye week. So he could be someone that I think you could stream and just hope for a little more volume.
Yeah, agreed on all fronts there. Um, Ready to move over to the streaming portion of things. Sound good?
Yeah. It's once again not the greatest, but I think a few more options that we may be interested in than most weeks.
Yeah. So we got Heineke. All these very low rostered. So, I'm not even going to read them off. They're all below 20%. Heineke versus Atlanta, Tannehill versus Cincinnati, Mac Jones at Minnesota, Davis Mills at Miami, and we'll say Zach Wilson or Joe Flacco versus Chicago.
Or whoever, Mike White.
Yeah, it could be anyone because they're not committing to Zach, and I understand why. So, who you liking out of that group there?
Yeah, I think it's Heineke for me. The team kind of has some good vibes going that way. The team's rallying around him. He's been playing well. And, Atlanta's not a great defense. Maybe we see that being a little more high scoring, although the Washington defense has played well. So that may, counter that as well. But I do think Heineke's probably the play. Tannehill, not bad as well. He's a rushing offense, but he's a quarterback that you could see for sub 200 yards, but end up with 2 or 3 touchdowns just because he's getting them at the goal line. So I think those are probably the two that I would be looking at streaming wise.
Yeah, I like Heineke number one. Honestly, I might go Flacco if he starts over any of the others. He was just been
You love yourself some Flacco.
he was just good for fantasy when he started this year, and I think last year too. I think
Good for the weapons too,
I've
even.
seen some weird stats. I'm gonna have to see if I can find him. I think he has more touchdowns than Russell Wilson this year. Um,
Wow. Russell has not thrown many touchdowns,
Russell
so
Wilson is on pace to throw fewer touchdowns than he does have bathrooms in his house. I saw that, which was
jeez.
weird. It's by like point .1. He's projected to do 11.9 touchdowns, and he's got 12 bathrooms in his house apparently. Um, yeah, I wish I could
You need to get
find.
them bathroom numbers
Yeah,
up.
for real. I saw something a comparison between Flacco and Russ. There we go. Russell Wilson has only has 2 more passing touchdowns than Joe Flacco, and Joe hasn't played since week 3. that's that is that's terrible.
Not great.
That's not great.
Not
Not great
great.
at all. So yeah, I'll go Flacco as a second, but Heineke's the one I want to. Good matchup, like you said, good vibes. That's a pretty solid situation. And then defense is here. Well, we got the Chiefs at the versus the Rams. We got the Dolphins versus Miami, Jets versus Chicago, and the Commanders versus Atlanta.
Yeah, some interesting ones. I think the Chiefs are probably my favorite, especially if we do see Stafford out. The offense wasn't great really with him, but Chiefs has been pretty opportunistic. They play well, countering their quarterback with Pat Mahomes, and the Rams could be without their starting quarterback. So I think that's probably my top choice.
I'm going to say that you are 100% not going to see Stafford. And in fact, I'm surprised you're not hearing more about it. When Tua got his concussion, he came in the next game, he got knocked out again, and it was a big thing, right? Well, Stafford, I don't think they were confirmed he had a concussion last week, but he was in the concussion protocol and missed the week. Then he comes back into this game and he's now again evaluated for another concussion. Like, that's not good. So I don't think he's going to be playing this week. So I just can't see it. So yeah, I'm with you. I'll take the Chiefs then because of that. If he does play for some reason, like if I had to pick a second choice, I'd probably go. Wait, who are the Dolphins playing? We have Dolphins versus Miami on here.
Oh yeah, maybe it's just a scrimmage.
Oh yeah, right. That makes sense.
No, they have a decent matchup. They got Houston.
Okay. Yeah, I like that. I'll probably actually take that, and they're the lowest rostered one. So, yeah, I'd roll with
not
that.
a great defense though, so definitely a risk.
Yeah. Well,
They
like
have had
Commanders are against Atlanta's good, but they're up at almost 60% roster. It's gonna be hard to get your hands on them. And I'm not touching the Jets. That whole situation's kind of scary.
Jets defense.
They've been good.
I mean, it depends if Fields plays, right? If Fields isn't in there,
Oh,
I
yeah.
think that's a solid play.
Yeah, true.
So that's once again similar to the Chiefs, dependent on the quarterback. But yeah, kind of use your best judgment as to what you think is going to happen. Fields is still kind of day to day versus the likely concussion of Stafford. It definitely leans a little more to the Chiefs side.
Yeah, very fair, very fair. Cool. Well, hey, that's going to knock out the waiver show. Tune in on Thursday for a start sit episode. Till then, folks, good luck on waivers and trust your board.